So we have some good news from the West Virginia teacher strike. It is indeed over, and the results are good. So the West Virginia teacher strike is over, but Oklahoma and Arizona may be next. A backlash is brewing against the Republican tax-cutting frenzy. In fact, it's not just Oklahoma and Arizona. Now even Kentucky is considering taking action because these are all states where teachers are struggling. So West Virginia teachers won a 5% raise, which is exactly what they were asking for. They won a freeze in their health insurance premiums, so they were supposed to spike and they couldn't afford them, but they won a freeze. I believe the freeze is for about a year. But also, get this, they won a 5% raise for other government workers as well. So this is really good. Now, they did kick the can down the road on some other issues, like their Medicaid cuts and things of that nature that were supposed to go into effect, but they kicked them down the road a little bit, but they haven't gotten what they want on that front yet, but they might in due time because they did a strike and it worked. So there's some unresolved issues, but by and large, this was definitely a win for the West Virginia teachers. And now, like I said, Oklahoma and Arizona and Kentucky are like, I think we have to do this. Because what's happening is a lot of these states are far-right states. The people who are running the state, I should say, states are far-right. And they have done this tax cut frenzy. Of course, when I talk about tax cuts, I mean tax cuts for the wealthy in those states, not tax cuts for regular people. And so some of these states the teachers haven't gotten a raise since 2014. And some of the proposals were, we'll give you a raise, but it'll be 1%. And the West Virginia teachers, for example, said that's disgraceful, it's disrespectful, it's a slap in the face, and it's comical. You're going to give us a 1% raise that doesn't even keep up with fucking inflation. Are you kidding us? You have to be kidding us. So they fought back and they won. And this is another example here of collective bargaining works, which is why in the private sector, they fight tooth and nail to try to block unions from being created. And they'll give you every bullshit argument in the book about how, oh my God, they're evil and they're wrong and they're this and they're that. But listen, it's just a fact of reality that when unions were strongest in the United States of America, the middle class was the strongest we've ever had it. So there's a direct correlation between strong unions and a strong middle class because you need something to fight back against the excesses of the owner class in a capitalist system. And unions do that very effectively. Now, again, you might point out, hey, but then there's sometimes unions get carried away and they go too far. That's true, but that's fine. It's a tug-of-war situation. All you have is CEOs in the owner class going too far, nonstop in one direction, endlessly. So if unions fight back and, in some cases, unions go too far in the other direction, that's what I call a necessary evil. Because the net benefit of having unions overall way outweighs the downsides of it. Because you're really helping workers and creating a strong, stable middle class. And when you have a strong, stable middle class, you have a better economy for everybody in the long run, including those rich people. So, teachers in Oklahoma, we've discussed this before. It was an amazing story from a few weeks back. Teachers in Oklahoma, some of the schools went to 4 days a week and not 5 days a week because the teachers needed to work a fifth day at Walmart in order to be able to pay their rent. Whoa. So teachers were not making enough money to pay the bills in Oklahoma. That's unbelievable. Unbelievable. So that's why they're saying we need to strike. And by the way, in West Virginia, the strike was technically unlawful. They're not allowed to strike. But there was an article I read that explained that actually might be why it worked. Because if they were officially unionized, then there would have been a no strike clause in their contract in return for some concessions, of course. But since they weren't, they were able to basically pull the rug out from underneath the politicians and surprise them. And they're like, oh, fuck, we literally have to give them what they're asking for in order for them to go back to teaching. So it was a strong show of solidarity and it worked. And you'll notice that it's never what the teachers ask for. It's not unreasonable. It's never unreasonable. They're just trying to fight back against our insane system, which keeps giving millionaires and billionaires tax cuts while cutting their wages to the point where in Oklahoma, they have to start working at Walmart in order to pay the fucking bills. So I stand in solidarity not only with the West Virginia teachers, but also in Oklahoma and Arizona and Kentucky. And there's even, whispers of something happening in Pennsylvania as well. So it looks like workers are rediscovering how effective collective bargaining can be. And I don't think what they're asking for is unreasonable. I think what they want makes perfect sense. And wouldn't it be great if workers across the country, not just in the public sector, but also in the private sector, band together and did this? I mean, we've spoken about it before, but a general strike in the country would be, that's really what we need. Because you're getting screwed in a way that's almost historic. Because when you look at us compared to other developed countries, the elites totally take advantage of us, and they're laughing at us. The United States is the only developed country that doesn't have paid time off by law. Every other modern nation has that. Same thing with paid maternity leave. In fact, we're one of 3 countries in the world that doesn't have paid maternity leave by law. The others are Oman and Papua New Guinea. So when you look at the facts of how we're screwed over, half of workers in America make $30,000 a year or less. Our unionization rate is super low. Our minimum wage is not a living wage. So the ways in which we're getting screwed, it's historic. And I've always been of the belief that if you explain that to the American people, they'll get it, and then they'll want to change it. They'll want to act on it. Our healthcare system, only developed country that doesn't have one version or another of a single-payer system. So that's why we have 30 million people that don't have healthcare. Every other developed country, that's not a thing. I don't have health insurance. That's not a thing. They look at that as a societal problem. They go, wow, we need to fix that, and we need to fix that immediately. When it comes to free college, Slovenia has a free college system, and the argument's going to be that the United States can't afford it? Well, we just spent $7 trillion in Iraq. Of course we can afford it. Of course we can afford it. It's just that the elites in society have chosen that we're not going to give the American people the bare minimum and the basics. So it's good to see people finally standing up and fighting back against it. And I would love it if we did a general strike throughout the whole country and we had basic demands. Imagine there was a general strike and what we were calling for is Medicare for all, free college, living wage, and the wars. Just those things. Imagine there's a general strike and we said that's what we want and we're not going to go back to work until we get that. Then we'd have those things implemented immediately because the country can't fucking function without working people. We have all the power. It's just we have to find a way to harness it and organize and work together for the goals that the overwhelming majority of us agree with. And unfortunately, our society is so atomized and segmented and fragmented and fractured that people don't even realize that we have the power if we collectively bargain. But that's something that they're now awakening to.